Good morning to all the dignitaries, invitees, professors, delegates, and dear students. With great joy and ecstasy, I, Pooja Sharma, feel privileged to extend my warm welcome to all present here for the inauguration of GLS University's National Level Colloquium on the theme of Gender Equity and Equality. Gujarat Law Society has been in the field of education for over a period of 9 decades and is considered as one of the largest and most renowned destinations for education in Gujarat. The society stands as a synonym for contemporary education in the region with the emphasis on quality. Its foundation was laid down by the Iron Man of India, Sri Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, Sri Ganesh Mavlankar, the first Lok Sabha Speaker, Sheth Sri Kasturbhai Lalbhai, late Sri I. M. Nanavati, the legal luminary, and other visionaries. Today, the name GLS has become synonymous with education all over the Gujarat. It established a statutory state private university by an act of Gujarat State Assembly in 2015. GLS University is set up with the vision to benchmark global standards of education and create path-breaking programs in the areas of strategic importance, not only to the country, but also across the world. This university is the brainchild of Sri Sudhir Bhai Nanavati, President GLS University. Faculty of Business Administration was established in 1999 with the intention to equip students of Ahmedabad with a bedrock of management skills to help them navigate through the complex business environment. It offers 3 years bachelor's programs, namely BBA Honors, BBA in Retail Management, BBA plus ACCA, and BBA with specializations in Marketing, Accounting Finance, International Business, Human Resource Management, Entrepreneurship, and Banking and Financial Services. भारतीय परंपरा के अनुसार किसी भी कार्यक्रम का शुभारंभ ईश्वर के स्मरण से किया जाता है. So we are starting today's event with Ish Aradhana.
सर्वेश्वरी जगदीश्वरी सर्वेश्वरी जगदीश्वरी हे मातृरूप महेश्वरी सर्वेश्वरी जगदीश्वरी सर्वेश्वरी जगदीश्वरी हे मातृरूप महेश्वरी ममतामयी करुणामयी ममतामयी करुणामयी हे मातृरूप महेश्वरी सर्वेश्वरी जगदीश्वरी सर्वेश्वरी जगदीश्वरी हे मातृरूप महेश्वरी जगजीवनी संजीवनी समस्त्र जीवनेश्वरी जगजीवनी संजीवनी समस्त्र जीवनेश्वरी हे मातृरूप महेश्वरी सर्वेश्वरी जगदीश्वरी सर्वेश्वरी जगदीश्वरी हे मातृरूप महेश्वरी कृपालिनी प्रतिपल भुवन विदेश्वरी कृपालिनी जगतारिणी प्रतिपल भुवन विदेश्वरी हे मातृरूप महेश्वरी सर्वेश्वरी जगदीश्वरी सर्वेश्वरी जगदीश्वरी हे मातृरूप महेश्वरी तमहारिणी शुभकारिणी मनमोहिनी विश्वेश्वरी तमहारिणी शुभकारिणी मनमोहिनी विश्वेश्वरी हे मातृरूप महेश्वरी सर्वेश्वरी जगदीश्वरी सर्वेश्वरी जगदीश्वरी हे मातृरूप महेश्वरी हे मातृरूप महेश्वरी हे मातृरूप महेश्वरी
Women Development Cell, one of the crucial statutory committees of GLS University, was established in 2015 with the purpose to create an open space where we have discourses on various issues, specifically from a gender lens. In the process, we try to learn and unlearn certain concepts that are core to our social milieu. In 2019, right before COVID-19 struck the world, the WDC had collaborated with the reputed Fulbright Nehru Specialist Program, where Professor Alice Clark from University of California had conducted a week-long workshop for faculty and students on gender constructs in modern workplace. Today, we are here for one-day national colloquium. It is going to be enriched with keynote speech, panel discussion, gender sensitization LIT fest, that is literature interpretation in talks, and research paper presentation. श्री कृष्ण अर्जुन से कहते हैं, आत्मोपम्येन सर्वत्र संपश्यति यो अर्जुन, सुखम वा यदि वा दुखम स योगी परमो मतः. I regard them to be perfect yogis who see the true equality of all living beings and respond to the joys and sorrows of others as if they were their own. Theme of the National Colloquium for this year is Gender Equity and Equality. Equity, जिसकी सामान्य परिभाषा न्याय और निष्पक्षता के आधार पर समान परिस्थितियां उत्पन्न करने पर बल देती है. इक्वेलिटी, समानता. समानता का अर्थ है समान व्यवहार करना, सभी को एक जैसी परिस्थितियां देना. हम सभी को बिल्कुल समान नहीं बना सकते, लेकिन समान परिस्थितियां तो दी जा सकती है. जैसे शिक्षा प्राप्त करने के लिए समाज के सभी लोगों को, चाहे वो किसी भी जाति धर्म के हों, सभी को समान अधिकार दिया गया है. कानून भी सभी के लिए समान एवं सभी को उपलब्ध है. लोकतंत्र बिना समानता के अधूरा है. Gender equality and equity refers to the possibility that people have the same opportunities to access their rights and that access is not limited by the fact that they are men or women. In ancient and Vedic literature, our gods and goddesses are invariably depicted with their consort Brahma with Saraswati, Vishnu with Lakshmi, and Shiva with Shakti. In the pursuit of achieving gender equality, the focus has often been on women. How to remove barriers for the inclusion of women, how to empower women, how to ensure that women gain access to health, economic, educational, and other opportunities. But we often forget that gender equity cannot happen without men and the wide spectrum of other genders. Instead of competing, humiliating, or suppressing the other gender, its focus should be complementing and completing each other. Equity is relational. Everyone is affected by gender inequality: women, men, trans, and gender diverse people, children, and families. What can we do to stop this problem? So, to address this issue, we are having with us very eminent personality, Miss Shubhrashtha, among us, who specially traveled all the way from Delhi to Ahmedabad to interact with young brains. I would now request Dr. Shefali Dani, Dean Faculty of Business Administration, to escort today's esteemed guest and Dr. Dharmesh Shah, Registrar GLS University, onto the stage. बहुआयामी आप हैं, बहुआयामी काज, पाकर अपने बीच में पुलकित हैं हम आज. इन्हीं पंक्तियों के साथ हम सभी का अभिनंदन करते हैं. अतिथि देवो भव की परंपरा का अनुसरण करते हुए मंच पर आसीन व्यक्तियों का सादर अभ्यर्थना के साथ परिचय देना चाहूँगी. With utmost pleasure, let me introduce you to Ms. Shubhrashtha. Ms. Shubhrashtha runs the Arth Shastra Group, a conservative political consultancy. Her firm has handled 14 state and general elections to the extent to 100% success rate. Ms. Shubhrashtha is a published author with Penguin. She represents agile and rational conservative Indian voice on national and international media. She also runs her own YouTube channel called The Churn, with the aim of hosting meaningful and detailed discussions on issues of global and national ideological and political concerns. We are so happy to have you here, ma'am. I request our Dean, FOBA, Dr. Shefali Dani, to welcome Shubhrashtha ma'am on behalf of GLS family. We are so happy to have with us Dr. Dharmesh Shah, Registrar GLS University and Professor Faculty of Management. Sir has been a backbone and a go-to person for every member at GLS University. Professionally, he has completed his doctorate in the area of corporate governance and has been a member of various reputed organizations like Institute of Company Secretaries of India, Commerce and Management Teachers Association, and Gujarat University Accountancy Teachers Association. With more than 2 decades of academic experience, he is fine repository of knowledge in the area of finance. He has to his credit several publications in international and national journals of repute. I would request our very own Dr. Sheeda Shah to welcome Dharmesh sir. Thank you, Sheeda ma'am. To make this event a blessed one, we invoke Goddess Saraswati by kindling the lamp of knowledge and wisdom. For seeking the choicest blessings for the same, I invite our admirable director ma'am, our valued guest, for the parampara of Deep Prajwalan. शुभम करोति कल्याणम आरोग्यम धन संपदा शत्रु बुद्धि विनाशाय दीपज्योति नमस्तुते दीपज्योति परम ब्रह्म दीपज्योति जनार्दन Deepo hartu me papam, Deepar Jyoti namostute. And now, I would like to invite the person who holds the college together, a seasoned scholar and navigator of this flagship of knowledge, a visionary who channelizes all our energy in the right direction, an epitome of positivity, the one and only our very own respected Dean, Dr. Shefali Dani, to give her welcome speech.
Thank you, Pooja. Good morning, one and all present here. Shubhrashtha ma'am, Dharmesh sir, heads of various institutions of GLS University and GLS Trust, faculty members from various colleges, participants, my colleagues, and all the students. It is indeed a matter of pleasure and privilege for me to extend all a very warm welcome to the inaugural session of National Colloquium on Gender Equity and Equality. At Faculty of Business Administration, we understand the importance of value addition that is brought through education in lives of children. Along with classroom teaching, we believe in giving students the required exposure that helps them to achieve future endeavors. We keep on doing different external activities as a non-conventional method to mentor students. This is possible because we are a part of legacy called Gujarat Law Society. The trust, which was established in 1927 by luminaries like Sri Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, Ganesh Mavlankar, Kasturbai Lalbai, and Sri I.M. Nanavati. GLS established GLS University under the visionary leadership of Sri Sudhin Nanavati, the president of GLS University, with the intention to impart quality education in the changing times of digitalization. Sociologists have identified gender as a social construct determined by social and cultural influences. But these social and cultural influences have been largely responsible for discrimination against women. The second millennium in the global history witnessed many dark ages, but it was the darkest for women. Women were denied the right to own property, to study, or to participate in public life. Women were just confined to four walls of house. Deterioration in the status of women also happened in India. Oppression and suppression of women led to the emergence of different movements like feminism and women empowerment in the West, which resulted into enactment of such laws in India that empowered women. Despite having a conducive legal framework, a huge number of women have disappeared from India's workforce. Therefore, the question is, did these movements create full equality to women? Did they respond to the needs of women? Or did they denigrate women's natural inclination by attempting to make women more like men? Physiologically, men and women are different. Therefore, their needs are different. So are their roles and responsibilities. Since time immemorial, the concept of respect of women has been embedded in Indian tradition and value system. Highlighting this dimension of Indian culture, PM Modi, in his address at Ambaji, had lionized how mother's name had been associated with brave men by citing examples of Arjun, Krishna, or Hanuman, who were popularly known by their mother's name as Parth, Devkinandan, or Anjani Putra. Respect we give to women, the recognition of their role in every sphere of life, and the acknowledgement of the power of the women hold the essence of our culture. Therefore, the concept of gender equity and equality needs to be reinterpreted in the Indian context. With this outlook on the status of women in the society, Faculty of Business Administration, in collaboration with Women's Development Cell, GLS University, has organized this national colloquium. Since we wish to put the concept of gender equity and equality in Indian context, We were looking for a dignitary who could rise above gendered nuances along with being culturally rooted. We are indeed fortunate to have with us Ms. Shubhrashtha, who prefer to be identified as a Hindu Indian to kickstart this colloquium. Ma'am, you have been a wonderful orator, and I am sure your insight on the topic will shed a new light. I extend very warm welcome on the behalf of GLS University. I here welcome all the participants, all the heads of various institutes, all the faculty members and students in this national colloquium on the topic gender equity and equality. All the best to all the participants who are participating in different events. All the best to all the faculty members who are going to present their papers after the panel discussion. And lastly, I would like to say, हजारों फूल चाहिए एक माला बनाने के लिए, हजारों फूल चाहिए एक माला बनाने के लिए, हजारों दीपक चाहिए एक आरती सजाने के लिए, हजारों बूंद चाहिए समुद्र बनाने के लिए, पर एक स्त्री अकेली ही एक काफ़ी है घर को स्वर्ग बनाने के लिए. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. We are having one empowered lady among us. Her conscious efforts towards the upliftment of the society leave us in amazement. Now the time is for the speech of chief guest. I request Shubhrashtha ma'am to please come and grace the event.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, GLS family, for inviting me. It's a huge honor to be here because this institution is not just historic, but it is also an institution that has been the seed of so many movements that India has seen. Inaugurated right at the peak of the Indian national movement. I think you all are a part of this legacy, and we all need to take this forward. So thank you, GLS, for associating me with this huge, huge, grand institution. Before I begin, there are a couple of things which I would want to, put disclaimers to. I come from a field which is not very traditionally acknowledged as a very lucrative profession. I don't even know if it is a profession totally. I'm still trying to navigate my way through it. Political entrepreneurship, women in politics, all these are terms which are very new in conversations that we have. And shall I keep the medium Hindi and English? Yeah. मेरे भाव जिस भाषा में जब आएंगे मैं उस हिसाब से बोलूँगी. इंग्लिश मुझे उतना पसंद नहीं है, इसीलिए मैं हिंदी बोलूँगी. मैं कोशिश करती हूँ कि मैं शुद्ध हिंदी बोलूँ और अंग्रेज़ी बोलूँ तो शुद्ध अंग्रेज़ी बोलूँ. तो और मैं इसको इंटरैक्टिव भी रखना चाहूँगी इस सेशन को, क्योंकि मैं ये रियलाइज़ कर रही हूँ कि 30 साल के बाद जब आप 35 की तरफ बढ़ने लगते हैं, उसके बाद 2-3 जनरेशन्स आपके पीछे होती हैं जो बहुत मौलिक सोच रही होती हैं, तो उनके पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू को भी साथ लेकर चलना ज़रूरी है. जब हम इक्विटी और इक्वालिटी की बात करते हैं और उसमें जेंडर डायनामिक्स ऐड करते हैं, तो मैं ये भूल नहीं सकती कि एक लगभग 35 वर्ष की युवती होने के नाते एक 15 साल की युवती को भी जो रिप्रेजेंटेशन मिलना चाहिए वो शायद कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनली अभी उतना नहीं मिल पा रहा. तो कम से कम हम अपने पब्लिक डिस्कोर्स में ये ज़रूर ट्राई कर सकते हैं कि ऐसा हो. I will talk about politics for sure because I think that's the reason why I've been called. But let me tell you that the experience of women in politics is not divested and it is not very different from women in any other field of profession. The moment women move out of their homes, the moment women move out of the set boundaries by society, they face equal and equitable challenges all around. And before focusing on the challenges, let us for a moment think of how we began this session. There was an invocation of the Mother Goddess by two beautiful women who sang beautifully. Sarveshwari, Maheshwari, Vishveshwari, all these names have very deep philosophical meanings. You just celebrated Navratra. Gujarat is known for its very grand Navratra celebrations, and we all know Navratra is invocation and celebration of Shakti. When you pick up any cultural text in India, whether it is Devi Puran or it is Durga Saptashati, you see the equal relationship that Shiv and Shakti have when they converse with each other, that gods and goddesses have when they converse with each other. So if you begin, for example, if I quote from Durga Saptashati, there is something called Saptashloki, where it's a combination of 7 shlokas, and it's basically said to represent the essence of Durga Saptashati. So there, Shiva asks Shakti to tell him those 7 shloks, that even if people are busy and they don't have a lot of time to worship the goddess and to remember her, what should be those 7 invocations? And Shakti responds and gives those 7 shlokas. Towards the end of the Saptashati, there is Shakti who asks Shiva that if people don't have time to do the kind of puja that is required, then how can they attain Shakti in a very limited span of time? And there you have the Siddha Kunjika Stotram. It is not very difficult for us to understand how there is a collaborative approach to worship, of course, but philosophically everything that life represents. Now, as young students and as people who will be joining the workforce very soon, immediately after you graduate, please keep this context in mind. We have made a huge journey from this heritage that we have, from this culture we have, to a point in time where conversations are about why are women not there at the table? So from a point in time when women defined the table to a point in time where we are jostling for space, I think that's the context that we all need to keep in mind, men and women, and men and women who don't identify themselves as men and women, all the different gender dynamics that we have. Just remember this when you join the workforce tomorrow. Because it is very easy to talk about challenges. We all know the challenges that gender dynamics have. We all know about representation, how skewed representation is. Even today in Parliament, the representation of women is abysmal. If you go by cross-sectionality, the representation of Dalit women is abysmal. If you go, tribal women are not there as much as we should have. In Parliament. We don't have many young women. When I say young, I'm talking about, 25, 26, 27-year-old women. By the time women enter politics, become ministers, they've already spent half of their prime and half of their youth in trying to navigate the gullies of politics, and it makes them extremely aggressive. It makes them extremely bitter from within. So there is something that we need to change about the system. Mere representation is not a problem and a solution that we should be looking at. Quality of representation is equally important. And with that, I'm a little irked by this whole conversation of women at the table. Because let me tell you, with whatever little experience I have gathered, the tables are not comfortable for women. When you have a table with a very large number of men sitting on the table, and very small example, and when snacks are served, for example, it's always psychologically, sociologically, it is such that it's women who are supposed to serve tea and snacks when the support staff is not available. These are very small, minute changes. What can women do? One is to fight and say that we won't do it. But the other thing also is the men can step up. For once, they should take over the kettle and start pouring tea for everyone. Because if a woman can do it, why not men? So when I ask the young guns like you to be aware of whatever cultural heritage we have, this is exactly what I mean. I remember I created a huge furor. Firstly, I'm a woman. Secondly, I'm a woman from Bihar. Thirdly, I'm a woman who knows a little bit of English. Fourthly, I'm working in a profession which is not very open to having women and opinionated women at that. And At that point in time, also to have women who work on strategy. These are all very lethal combinations. Men don't like women like us. Especially when there are conversations about ticket distribution, especially when there are conversations about which person should be allowed to campaign in which area and which person should be given a preference to, do all those small things that political campaigns require. And there I have a voice, fortunately, and I acknowledge the efforts of all the men also who rallied behind me to ensure that I have a voice at the table and not just a seat at the table. But being aware of all of that, I'll tell you a very personal example which has really happened with me. I was in Bihar. There was this whole conversation about we need to, give more representation to women. So this political party that we were consulting wanted to give tickets to more women candidates, and there was a huge campaign behind it. Lot of internal politics in the party. Finally, it happened, and there were people who were sitting at the table. Of course, women all around, and a couple of general secretaries and vice president of the party who were, of course, men. None of them were women at leadership positions. So men at the leadership positions were to decide which woman to be given ticket to and all of that. And a similar incident happened. Tea and snacks were, brought in. And instinctively, a woman started fidgeting and wanted to get up. I eyed her not to. She was a little flummoxed. And I asked the general secretary of the party, I won't take the name, Mr. XYZ, can you please serve snacks? There was a huge furor. Nothing happened in that meeting. I mean, of course, we did business as usual, but immediately after the meeting, I was called. I was told that, I have really breached my mark and I shouldn't have. He's the general secretary of the party, blah, blah, blah. And, I shouldn't have really asked the man to do the needful. To which I simply responded that the women were there as guests. The women were there for a purpose. They were there to prove their mettle, not to serve tea and snacks. The general secretary of the party, who had called the meeting, was the host of that meeting. So he should very well know how to serve his guests and ensure that. What I'm trying to say is that these are very small things that you need to do. With conversations on gender equity and equality do not necessarily have to be at a national or international level to be able to make an impact. You need to be mindful of very small levels at which discrimination happens. Let us talk about women in media. I'm sure a lot of you who are pursuing your business administration, bachelor's or master's, tomorrow you may join companies which deal with PR, which deal with media management, and you may jostle with a lot of corporate offices in that respect. Corporate offices, headquarters of media spaces, of course, they have brilliant washrooms with, men and women washrooms are separate and all of that. But what about those reporters who go to report on ground? 8-9 hours of travel, sometimes 24 hours of travel without, because, if there is a riot going on, if there are farmer movement going on, for example, a journalist cannot take a break. But do you have public toilets that support a woman's body? How many public toilets have you seen in and around our own country? I'm not talking about one city or the other, which are conducive to the specific requirements that women have. So these are very small things. So as a result of which, I know of many friends in media who don't drink water for days on end if they are out in the field reporting, because they can't afford to. Because we don't have many public, toilets. So tomorrow, if somebody, joins, say, for example, a real estate company or a company which looks into, road contracts or whatever, please ensure that you have public toilets all around, especially for women, because, men relieve themselves wherever they want to, but women don't. And it's also, there are a lot of physiological, there are chances of UTI infection, some more in case of women and all of that. So these are very small examples that I'm trying to quote. I'm not trying to give you a theoretical basis, because I'm sure you'll have multiple, opportunities to read books, to listen to women online, to listen to various TED Talks. So I'm not going to bore you with theoretical premises. I want to give you real live examples of how discrimination has happened over the years and what we need to change about it. There is a conversation that we all shy away from, which is pay gap. I don't understand why, and it is not just India. When I'm talking about these things, these are all globally relevant themes. Women in top, first of all, women at top corporate positions are less as compared to men. McKinsey, I think, produced a report as late as I think 2020 or 2021, when they were basically comparing, representation of women at top tier in corporate offices, and they said for 100 men promoted at top corporate positions, only 86 women were promoted. And of course, there can be reasons as to why. But the point is that when you don't have many women at the table, how do you change the structure of the table? How do you change the height of the table? Because the height of the table sometimes is also not conducive to women. How do you change the chairs, which are mostly revolving? And if you are an Indian woman and who prefers to wear saris at work, those chairs are damn uncomfortable. The wheels, your sari gets stuck and all of that. Once you have more women, you'll realize these are practical problems. And these are very small issues which go a long way in making, workspaces more conducive to women. There is a conversation about creche. And I'm really happy that a lot of corporate offices in the country have started, this whole idea of having creches at work, so women who are mothers can, of course, go drop their kids and work. But what about women in politics? How many women politicians can go to the parliament, put their babies in a creche and go about work as usual? If they have reached parliament, still they are a little privileged because, you have a seat at the table. There are, cameras all around you which can watch you, which can represent you. But what about those women in politics who are really working at the ground level? Do they and can they have the luxury of having a creche? Think about it. It's not just having a physical space. It's also creating that mental, that sociological and that psychological idea of giving equal and equitable opportunities to women. When there is this whole conversation about equity and equality, let us remember there are certain positive discrimination that will be done, that ought to be done in the long run to be able to make women come at par with how men are realizing their potential. I'll give you an example. Dakshayani Velayudhan. How many of you have heard the name of this woman? Perhaps none. She was a contemporary of Ambedkar, a Dalit woman from Kerala, the only Dalit woman in the parliament, the first constituent assembly that we had. She had the audacity to challenge Ambedkar on reservations. While Ambedkar was advocating for reservations all over, Dakshayani Velayudhan said we don't need reservations. And of course, the whole classic argument of how we want to realize our own potential in our own way. But how many of us know Dakshayani Velayudhan? There has been a systematic erasure of these women heroes, heroines, whatever you call them, from our national consciousness. And I'm not saying that there was a design to it. I'm saying the architecture of our history is such, the architecture of our workspaces are such that we tend to forget the contribution of women. The same McKinsey report that was published a couple of years ago mentions how women at top corporate positions actually make workplace more habitable. I had the opportunity of meeting the faculty here at GLS in the morning today, and so many women. And it's important because, when you have so many women in the workspace, these are all, scientific studies with lot of research, sociological studies with lot of research. There's a lot of empathy at workplace. Post-COVID, there have been researches done where, companies have realized that when you have more women at top managerial positions, the general mental health care of the staff is better than when men are at the helm of affairs. And it is not because women have some intrinsic superpower. It is because of the very fact that because women have been multitaskers all around, they are able to understand the problems and the vagaries of day-to-day struggle and day-to-day life. It is not very pretty when you begin to struggle to leave your kid at home and move out and feel guilty all the time of missing the first step. You know, my office mein thi and I missed my first step. But how many men have we seen lamenting that fact? You know, there was this whole conversation about we shouldn't humiliate men. No, I'm not for humiliating men. But when a conversation like that is normalized, that a woman was at work and she missed her child's first step or whatever, you know, a child, so many milestones in a child's journey, a father should be equally responsible. If you have a concept of maternity leave, we should have a concept of paternity leave and equal paternity leave. If a woman takes 3 months of off and 3-6 months, whatever is there as per norms in government and corporate offices, I think compulsorily men should be asked to take that off, not because of any other reason than the fact that the man needs to feel equally responsible for the child that is out there in the world. Also because 6 months, 7 months, or whatever time the woman takes off, we all know how it is when you get back to work, right? Sometimes your table is snatched, sometimes your cabin is not there anymore. Even if you have a table or a cabin, you're made to realize that somehow you will underperform now because you have additional responsibilities. So let men also feel that. And it is nothing to do with the fact, it's not coming out of a revenge psychology. It is coming out of the fact that once you start feeling more responsible for what is there in store, I think workspaces will be a more empathetic, place to be in. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we are getting towards this culture of women becoming more masculine and men becoming more feminine, to push this sort of idea of very desirable androgyny, which according to me is nonsense. Because you cannot and you shouldn't meddle with what we already have. There is an intrinsic power to being feminine and there is an intrinsic power to being masculine. Please understand that all the great manufacturing units that we have today, all the great scientific minds that we have today, most of them have been men. Why would you want to discourage that masculine force from taking charge and building stuff for the world and for humanity at large? There is a reason to acknowledge. There are multiple reasons to acknowledge that there is an intrinsic power in the masculine force and an intrinsic power in the feminine force, and they both should collaborate and complement each other rather than being at zero-sum games with each other. Increasingly, our gender studies, specifically popular culture, has been pushing this idea of women becoming more like men. So in web series or whatever popular culture tropes that we have, women smoking, women drinking, women swearing like men, all of this has suddenly become a matter of empowerment. So how many of you have watched, I'm not going to take names, but that film or that series where there is this very popular actress who is out there, extremely efficient at her job, but swears all the time. I think it has been normalized that it's okay and it's desirable to be like badly behaved men at top positions to be able to assert that you are good. Smoking is a bad habit. Swearing is a bad habit. Drinking is good for entertainment, but a bad habit at the end of the day, bad for your health. Why would you want to adopt all of that to be able to look strong? Please understand that the idea of strength is very different from the idea of looking aggressive, feeling aggressive, and putting out an aggressive self out there. So I think these are very small issues that we need to really focus on to be able to talk about the larger rubric. I've tried to make this conversation profession agnostic, but I cannot be immune and I cannot ignore the challenges that women specifically face in politics today, especially Indian politics. It is very difficult. Trust me, it is very difficult to be a Draupadi Murmu. And it is historic that we have a leadership today that has acknowledged not just the struggle of a tribal woman, but a struggle of a woman who has moved beyond her brief. First of all, she educated herself. How difficult it is for tribal women even today to move out of their homes, educate themselves, have a very tragic personal life that she did, and still not give up but carry on and do something for society. And for a leadership, and I'm sure the leadership is very masculine. There are a lot of men at the top who are running the affairs in the country, but it takes a certain kind of men to acknowledge the contribution of these women and promote them to positions which might look like mere representation to some of the naysayers, but this representation is important because it gives hope to so many other women out there. You remember Ujjwala Yojana, right? One of the most touted and I think the most successful schemes of this government. How many of you come from rural areas? One. I'm sure you would, many. So I'm sure that I'm sure you know what kind of revolution Ujjwala Yojana has brought in the lives of women who had to actually suffer, not just health-wise, but also in many different ways. They didn't have time. They didn't have time to do anything else beyond the household because, you had to cook at a certain point in time when the daylight was around. So you had to orient your whole lifestyle around it. And of course, there are a lot of studies being done by different institutions, academic and non-academic NGOs, talking about the Ujjwala Yojana. But the point is that these men and women, whoever are at the leadership position, they acknowledged the problems of women at large. And it is important to have gender-sensitive leadership in politics for sure, elsewhere as well. In politics more so because that is the fulcrum of how the other policies elsewhere are devised, right? So if, for example, the government comes up with a bill which says that all corporate offices across the country mandatorily have to, put it out in front of their employees and for world at large to see how many women are at, top positions in their offices and what is the pay of a man and a woman at the same position. Put it out there. I don't understand why big groups in media cannot do that. It's very easy for us to look at these television screens and see television anchors, both men and women, host the primetime shows. But do you know that there is a huge pay gap between what, say, an Anjana Om Kashyap would get and what a Ravish Kumar would get? Both Hindi, primetime journalists, both equally accomplished, but the pay gap is huge. I wanted not to take names. I have, but I hope it's a Chatham House and people are not putting things outside. But I'm just trying to, give you a perspective. Vice presidents if the company has many vice presidents and there are women and men out there, I think it should be the benefit for everybody to disclose what Vice President A, who is a woman, is getting and what Vice President B, who is a man, is getting. I'm sure, as management students, you would question me on, how this will really impact business and all of that and effectiveness at workplace, which is why I said at least at top positions, there should be clarity. People should know what it is out there. Also, I think it's important to have conversations. And it's important to have conversations across, across a cross-section. 30, 35-year-old women talking among each other about gender equality is not going to cut ice. Women who are joining workforces much early on because of this whole Instagram culture and the whole social media culture. There are so many influencers out there who are making tons of money and living a very good life. There are problems even here. The kind of representation that you want women to have on Instagram is very different than how you would want men to look on Instagram. So this industry itself, and trust me when I tell you this, when I started, I said I'll try to be profession agnostic. This is a problem that you have everywhere. Women in politics are supposed to dress up in a certain way. There are so many women who have joined politics from the world of glamour. Look at the way they dress today and look at the way they used to dress 10 years ago. The field of politics is such, and it's not just politics, it's about any other space. Look at corporate spaces as well. The way women and men dress, men may get ready in say 5 or 10 minutes, but women take more time to get ready. And I'm really thankful for culture in India that we actually don't spend so much of time. But in the West, I was extremely, aghast, and I had this conversation. We were traveling in the London metro, early in the morning, office hours, and there's this woman who walked in, and I think she must be working at some really good corporate office. She had her heels in hand, whole makeup kit in hand, and she did all her makeup in the London metro and wore heels when she walked out. But when she walked in, she of course you can't run in heels, so she was not wearing heels. In India, I don't think we have a problem. I don't think, if you don't walk into corporate spaces without wearing heels, I don't think it's really that much of an issue. But it really struck me that why should women at corporate positions, especially top corporate positions, dress a certain way to be able to look sharp? Please think about it. Next time when you switch on television, do see how the male anchors and how the female anchors dress. Do see how much time it would take for a female anchor to get ready than a male anchor to get ready. These are very small, small things. And tomorrow, when you join the industry, keep these things in mind and fight for the right cause. Don't fight for the heck of fighting. Please also understand that when I'm saying this, there is no excuse for being shoddy at work. Just because you are a woman, you should not be allowed to use that as a bait to pass off your incompetence and use your womanhood as a bait to, either move ahead or negotiate. I'm not trying to say that. What I'm trying to say is pick the right struggles. Identify what issues are plaguing. Because when you move up the ladder, it's not just you who is moving up. You are a representation of so many other women like you who could not get the opportunities that you did. Which is why I said mere representation is not enough. Quality of representation is important. What do women in politics do is more important than how many women are there, at top political positions. I come from Bihar. I come from Nalanda. We had an amazing leader, Tarkeshwari Sinha from Bihar. India's first woman who went to London School of Economics all on full scholarship, educated herself, came back, joined politics, but she never is acknowledged in when we talk about strong women in politics. She served during Indira Gandhi's time. Her speeches were banned from being aired on national television. Sorry, we didn't have television at that point in time. Television, radio, whatever media of communication was there. These are important things to acknowledge. अपने पुरखों का जो स्ट्रगल है उसको एक्नॉलेज करने की ज़रूरत है. अगर हम दक्षायनी वेलायुधन को याद नहीं कर पा रहे, अगर हम तारकेश्वरी सिन्हा को भूल गए, तो ये समस्या है. सिर्फ हमारे हिस्ट्री में ये समस्या नहीं है, ये हमारे आज के करंट कॉन्टेक्स्ट में भी समस्या है कि हम जब महिलाओं की बात करते हैं राजनीति में, हम महिलाओं की बात करते हैं किसी भी पोजीशन पर, हम केवल 2-3 महिलाओं का नाम लेकर के उस रिप्रेजेंटेशन को एकमात्र रिप्रेजेंटेशन मान करके आगे बढ़ते हैं. I'm sure many of you would have watched that very powerful video by Indira Nui, where she talks about her own struggle. And I felt a little disappointed when she said that, I realized early on that we can't have it all. And it is very emotional. And it is also very disappointing. Indira Nui is not an ordinary woman. She's a woman of a lot of mettle and a lot of strength. For a woman of that mettle to realize that women cannot have it all is a huge comment on the kind of society that we have created for women to progress. From a point in time when, there is this whole story in Devi Puran when the 3 gods, they start talking about, they start thinking of where they come from. They go to Bhagavati and they say that, "Hum kahan se aaye maa, hame batao." And in the toenail of Bhagavati, they see the whole universe. And, it's like a hypnosis, and they go into that hypnosis and they watch their whole past life, present life and everything. And once the time is to come back to reality, they say कि मैंने आपका इतना वृहद स्वरूप देखा है कि अब मुझे पुरुष होने की इच्छा ही नहीं है, मैं स्त्री बन के रहना चाहता हूँ. To which, of course, the Bhagavati says that, both energies are required for the world, and then you have the whole idea of consort, that Shiva with Shakti, Lakshmi, Vaishnavi with Vishnu, and all of that. The point is, how did we move from this narrative to the narrative of Indira Nui that women cannot have it all? It's a huge comment, and it's a huge comment on the society that we have created for ourselves. Of course, our ancestors have created for us, and that has passed on. But it's been long. We can't blame foreign aggression for very long. We shouldn't blame colonialism at India at 75. It was easy and perhaps convenient for people 2 generations away from us to say that, well, हमारे समय ऐसा नहीं था. 1960s, 70s, when women had started moving out, situations were very different than 2022. This cannot be an excuse for women of today. But do think about these issues, do think about these concerns. I'm sure when you move out, I'm sure when you go out, you will acknowledge that having aspirational men and women around is really important for national development, is really important for the growth and health of this nation. Do not curtail anybody's freedom, man or woman, just because the person is aspirational. Keep this in mind, and I hope you guys turn out to be better leaders, more gender just leaders. And whatever you do, please ensure that the structure of the table is changed, not just representation at the table. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for your inspiring words and making us learn it's never too late to start anything, and it's all about the mindset that dictates you to who you want to become and the kind of change you want to bring in self and others. So now the house is open for questions and answers.
Good morning, ma'am. My name is Devshri Shah. So my question would be, you talked about the psychological nature that the society has induced in us, be it serving when staff is absent or feeling guilty about leaving the child at home. How should we fight this nature? Even women who are opinionated, empowered, have this urge to do these things just because this is what is right, is something that is fed up in our minds all our lives.
See, I agree with Indira Nui that you can't have it all, but I'm saying it on a lighter note. You can't expect, so even today, you are a student, right? I'm sure there are multiple things which are going on outside of this auditorium, but you're not going and participating in everything. You prioritize things in life. So maybe your priority was more to attend this symposium than anything else. So similarly, in a working woman's life, there are areas where she prioritizes her home sometimes, she prioritizes her work sometimes. The point is, the priority should be her choice. It shouldn't come at a point in time, at the level that that Indira Nui reached. It shouldn't come from a place of disappointment. Then that pithy line shouldn't come as a general reminder that women cannot have it all. We can have it all provided we know what our all represents. So for you, it might be, for example, tomorrow if you become a mother, maybe motherhood is more important to you than your career. But for your peer, career might be more important than her motherhood. No two motherhoods are similar. And both are amazing mothers. But let the priority be decided by the woman in question.
Good morning, ma'am. I'm Ashit, and this is awkward, but I actually disagree with you with a lot of points. And so here's my question, okay? I'll ask this, and you can answer in one word, or you can describe why you chose that option. Choose one. Socialism, communism, or capitalism?
Why do I have to choose? I've come from a constitution. My constitutional structure is such that I'm a mix of both.
So you won't choose one? Okay.
No, I wouldn't choose. See, you may disagree with a lot of things, and I think I welcome all kinds of disagreements. Please understand that in life, you don't have neat choices. Never have neat choices. एकम सत्य विप्रम बहुधा वदंती, ये जो कहा गया है ना, ये बात सच है. जो मेरा सच होगा वो आपका सच नहीं हो सकता, आपका सच जो होगा वो मेरा सच नहीं हो
Yeah,
सकता.
that is true. I respect you, all of your opinions, but I do disagree with them, but I also respect them. And again, choose one. Different set of options. Meritocracy or equality. So, do you prefer more viable people on a workplace, or like do you have a mandate like, oh, 40% women or a 50% women and 50% men? What is your
Justice. See, darling, I have never chosen any of the two structures that were ever given to me. So you're talking to the wrong woman. If you ask me to choose a yes or no, I'm never going to give you that answer. That is not how I have lived my life for 35 years. So today, it's not going to change on this platform.
So again, you won't choose one. Okay.
Good morning, ma'am. Myself, Jiten Makhija, and a follow-up question from him said, as he mentioned that what would you prefer, like a reservation system or the merit system? I'm gonna just ask a follow-up question. As you said that you want more participation or more representation in the political field, many renowned institutes like IITs, IIMs are considering this factor that women should have a reservation. But as we are here to talk on equity and equality, don't you think creating reservation for women now? All the SCs, STs already have reservation. Maybe the third gender would get reservation in the future. So don't you think it's gonna be very unfair for the male category? I don't think that we will ever consider that boys or male, students should get reservation. So don't you think it's very unfair when we talk about reservations and more representation? It should be very much fair for everyone, na?
So I apologize if my address made it seem like I support reservation lock, stock, and barrel. I really apologize. I think my idea was not that at all. I have a very nuanced take on reservations. When you make a blanket statement that men do not have reservations or men do not demand reservation, well, when you talk about SC, ST reservations, OBC reservations, it's a pretty gender neutral reservation platform. Men have reservations too. The idea that I'm talking about is positive discrimination. The idea that and also when I talked about representation, every time I mentioned representation, I talked about quality of representation as well. So it's not just about having women at positions that we all vie for. It's about ensuring that when women reach that position, what do they do with that? What do they do with that position? What extra steps have they taken for other women to feel more comfortable around that space? There is no one answer to your question, and it is a very complex issue. As a nation, we are fighting this issue. There is no foolproof answer as to what form of reservations we need in the country today. Some of us feel that economic criteria should be a point of consideration. But we also cannot ignore the caste realities of this country, the tribal realities of this country, knowing fully well that the creamy layer has started milking the system as well. So it is a very complex issue. So that the problem is that ये जो हमने अपने आप को 2-4 कैटेगरीज दे दिए हैं कि इस कैटेगरी में बॉक्स करो, उस बॉक्स से निकलना जरूरी है. And I have lot of hope from our generation, including yours. जो नियत परिभाषाएं बनाई गई हैं ना, उनको शायद तोड़ने की बहुत ज़रूरत है, बहुत ज़्यादा ज़रूरत है. तो हम जब रिजर्वेशन की बात करते हैं, हम जब इक्विटी की बात करते हैं, इक्वालिटी की बात करते हैं, किसी ने सवाल पूछा था मेरिटोक्रेसी वर्सेस रिजर्वेशन पे सवाल पूछा था. इतना सरल नहीं है. अगर आपके यहाँ से फॉर एग्जाम्पल कच्छ की कोई ट्राइबल बच्ची अगर आपके साथ पढ़ने आती है और कोई एक बच्ची है जो कि अहमदाबाद के किसी बहुत अच्छे नामी गिरामी स्कूल से पढ़ी हो और वो दोनों MBA करने अगर आते हो, आपको क्या लगता है कि अगर आप फॉर एग्जांपल और दोनों की आर्थिक स्थिति बहुत अच्छी नहीं है, आपने 100 रुपये अहमदाबाद से जिसने पढ़ा और आपने 100 रुपये उनको दिया जो कच्छ से आई, क्या आपको लगता है कि ये मेरिटोक्रेसी होगी क्या आपको लगता है कि ये इक्वल जो पैसे आपने उनको दिए और उनको दिए, ये दोनों के लिए ये संसाधन पर्याप्त हैं? ये नहीं होंगे, क्योंकि द गर्ल हु हैज स्टेड इन अहमदाबाद वुड हैव सीन वर्ल्ड एट अ मच लार्जर स्केल. उसके जीवन की वो शायद वो पूरे के पूरे 100 रुपए अपनी पढ़ाई पे खर्च करे. लेकिन ये जो ट्राइबल लड़की है, हो सकता है उसमें से 75 रुपए वो घर भेजे क्योंकि उसकी माँ, उसके पिताजी, उसका भाई सिकल सेल एनीमिया से पीड़ित हो. तो बहुत इतना सरलीकृत करके कि हम मेरिटोक्रेसी कर रहे हैं या हम रिजर्वेशन करें, इतना जीवन इतना सरल नहीं है. एनसीईआरटी बुक से बहुत अच्छा हम लोगों को एक प्रेमाइस मिल जाता है, बट एनसीईआरटी बुक के बियॉन्ड जो कॉम्प्लेक्सिटीज हैं वो आप देखेंगे जब आप वर्कफोर्स में जाएंगे. तो
Hello, ma'am. This is Chitra. So, well, you very rightly said that we have to fight for rights in the world, but I think the real fight starts at the home and majorly ends there for a majority of women. So, I want to highlight the support of families that a lot of women don't get. What do you have to say about that, and what are the women supposed to do at that point of time?
रेबेल. मैं कंजर्वेटिव हूँ, बिल्कुल मैं मानती हूँ मैं कंजर्वेटिव हूँ, लेकिन अगर मेरे कंजर्वेटिव वैल्यू की रक्षा के लिए मुझे अपने लोगों से लड़ना पड़े तो मैं लड़ूंगी. क्योंकि शक्ति शिवा बहुत वैसी महिला थी कि उनको, अगर वैसी लड़की थी, महिला तो नहीं थी तब, उन्होंने जब डिसाइड किया कि मुझे शिव के साथ शादी करनी है, कितनी भी बाधाएं आई, शी मूव्ड आउट ऑफ द हाउस मैन. शी डिड तपस्या फॉर सो मेनी युगों तक तपस्या करती रही वो. तो ये मतलब ये एक मिथक है जिसको आपको अपने जीवन में उतारने के लिए सोचना पड़ेगा कि अगर आप किसी चीज को शिद्दत से चाह रही हैं, फॉर एग्जाम्पल आपको कोई कोर्स करना हो और घर में कहा जा रहा हो कि आप दूसरा कोर्स लीजिए, पर आपको पता है कि मुझे यही करना है, तो फिर लड़ो. फिर उसके लिए तो यू हैव सो मेनी हीरोइंस फ्रॉम विद इन योर ओन कल्चर टू गिव यू दैट काइंड ऑफ स्ट्रेंथ. Has this side of the aisle not listened at all?
Excuse me.
First of all, thank you so much, ma'am. You shared more like such an inspiring word about on the topic of gender equality. But according to me, the most suppressed gender in the society and who face discrimination in the vast scale is transgender. So we all just fight between men and women, their rights. You talk about workplace. We at least see women on workplace. We see them working in school, colleges, like you talk about GLS faculty. But what are your views on gender empowerment? Because we don't see many transgender working on workplace.
You know, it's a very valid question. And यही जब मैं कह रही थी ना कि परिभाषाएं बदलने की ज़रूरत है, ये बहुत सटीक सवाल आपने उठाया है, क्योंकि जितने भी जेंडर सिंपोजियम्स होते हैं, ये बात सच है कि वो मेन विमेन तक सीमित होकर के रह जाते हैं. सो इट्स अ वेरी वेरी वैलिड कंसर्न एंड आई एग्री विथ यू. वी नीड more transgender people at every level, beginning from politics. It has to begin from politics.
So, can you please help with the share your ways at what level and how can we like help in empowerment of transgender in our society?
मुझे लगता है सबसे पहली चीज तो अवेयरनेस ही है, क्योंकि ये बात आज जेंडर डायनामिक्स भी इतना ज्यादा कॉम्प्लेक्स हो गया है that there are people born as men who don't identify themselves as men. Then of course there is transgender, cisgender, so many other. तो मुझे पहले लगता है कि सबसे पहले तो एक अवेयरनेस, सोसाइटल लेवल पर एक अवेयरनेस की बहुत ज़रूरत है. दूसरी चीज़ कि अगर कोई भी ट्रांसजेंडर हमारे बीच में है जो कि आपके साथ आगे बढ़ना चाह रहा है, तो जितनी सेंसिटिविटी हम एक्सपेक्ट करते हैं कि हम किसी दलित महिला के साथ रखें, किसी दलित बच्चे के साथ रखें, या किसी जो भी जितने भी हम लेवल्स ऑफ डिस्क्रिमिनेशन कर रहे हैं, शायद उससे थोड़ा और ज़्यादा सेंसिटिव होकर के उनको प्रमोट करने की ज़रूरत है. क्योंकि ये बात आपकी बिल्कुल सच है, किसी भी वर्क स्पेस में ट्रांसजेंडर को रिप्रेजेंटेशन तो अभी रिप्रेजेंटेशन लेवल पर भी हम नहीं पहुंचे हैं, तो हम तो अभी क्वालिटी और उसकी बात कर ही नहीं सकते. आई एग्री विथ यू, आई टोटली एग्री विथ यू. ऑल्सो आई थिंक कल्चरली अगेन अगर हम देखें तो किन्नर समाज हमारे यहाँ बहुत सशक्त समाज रहा है, और जितनी जितनी शक्तियां किन्नर समाज को दी गई हैं, जितना असिमिलेशन हमारे अपने कल्चर में रहा है, शायद अगर हम वो सोसाइटी में वर्क प्लेस पर अगर लेकर के आने लगे तो बहुत बड़ी बात होगी. आई एम श्योर आप लोगों में से जितने लोग कल्चरली कोई भी घर में शादी फंक्शन कुछ भी होता है, उनका एक भाग, उनका एक हिस्सा होता है जो वो आकर के क्लेम करते हैं और वो लेते हैं और उनको बहुत दिल के साथ दिया जाता है.
But that is also still not equality, na?
नो दैट इज नॉट इक्वालिटी. व्हाट आई एम सेइंग कि आई थिंक हमारे शायद मैं ये कह रही हूँ, शायद कल्चरली रूट पे शायद वो इक्वालिटी थी जिसका बहुत विद्रूप स्वरूप आज हमारे सामने है. शायद हमें थोड़ा और तलाशने की जरूरत है. Unfortunately, I don't have a very particular answer to your question.
Yes, I actually don't expect because nobody have the answer. That's why they are very discriminated and they're a large scale. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay.
Hello, ma'am. Akshat here. And you spoke very politically and you gave mostly all the answers diplomatically. So I would be asking a simple question that what would you make the changes if you got to a position to change or twist the rules and regulations now to uplift women by not cutting men's legs but still raising women's?
कुछ मैं रियल लाइफ एग्जांपल्स दे देती हूँ, कुछ हाइपोथेटिकल एग्जांपल्स देती हूँ. सी मैं राजनीति में हूँ नहीं, एक्टिव सक्रिय राजनीति जिसको कहते हैं, तो मैं कल मिनिस्टर बनूँ, एमपी बनूँ, सांसद बनूँ या विधायक बनूँ, ऐसी मेरी कोई लालसा नहीं है. लेकिन अगर मैं उस पोजीशन पे पहुँचूँ तो सबसे पहला काम जो मैं करूँगी, बहुत 2-3 युगांतकारी काम हो गए कि फाइनेंस मिनिस्टर महिला को बनाया गया, डिफेंस मिनिस्टर महिला को बनाया गया. विमेन एंड चाइल्ड डेवलपमेंट किसी पुरुष को दिया जाए. पहले तो विमेन और चाइल्ड डेवलपमेंट अलग अलग मिनिस्ट्रीज की जाए, बिकॉज विमेन आर नॉट चिल्ड्रन एंड चिल्ड्रन आर नॉट विमेन. तो पहले तो ये डिपार्टमेंट्स अलग, ये दोनों मिनिस्ट्रीज अलग अलग हों और इन दोनों मिनिस्ट्री का चार्ज एट अ सर्टेन पॉइंट इन टाइम मेन को दिया जाए. टू बी एबल टू फर्स्ट एज अ सोसाइटी, एज अ नेशन भी हमें शायद समझने की जरूरत है, हाउ डू मेन रिस्पॉन्ड टू चिल्ड्रन. Because ऐसा नहीं है, when I think when we were left with our fathers, under our fathers care, we had equal amount of fun, perhaps more fun than we had with our mothers. तो एक बार आप छोड़ के तो देखो, एक बार वो डिपार्टमेंट दे करके तो देखो वो. सो आई थिंक एक चेंज जो मैं करना चाहूँगी वो ये होगा. चेंज या इट्स अ वेरी इंक्रीमेंटल चीज़ है ये. और जो मैंने अपने वर्क स्पेस में किया है कि पॉलिटिकल कंसल्टेंसी में सर्वेज, जो बहुत हमारा सर्वेज बहुत लार्ज स्केल पे होता है और पूरे टाइम हम सर्वे करते रहते हैं, बिकॉज विथ एवरी स्मॉल चेंज स्ट्रैटेजी चेंज होती है. स्मॉल चेंज ऑन ग्राउंड, कम्युनिकेशन स्ट्रैटेजी चेंज हो जाती है, आपकी क्या करना चाहते हैं वो चेंज होती है. सर्वेज वर नॉट अ फोर्टे ऑफ विमेन. जितनी सर्वे एजेंसीज अभी भी कंट्री में काम कर रही हैं उसमें 95% ऑफ द वर्क फोर्स इज दैट ऑफ मेन. बट मैंने जहाँ जहाँ कैंपेन किया, especially in difficult areas, I ensured that I had women on ground. Because women, first of all, they can access the household kitchen, which men cannot. Even boys cannot. क्योंकि वो तो ये छोटा सा मैंने चेंज लाया, लेकिन इसका आउटकम बहुत दूरगामी रहा और बहुत अच्छा रहा. बिकॉज मैंने क्वालिटेटिवली देखा कि जो इनसाइट्स विमेन स्टाफ से आ रहा था मेरे पास, जो पॉलिटिकल नुआंसेस और इनसाइट्स आ रहे थे, वो मुझे मेल स्टाफ से कभी नहीं मिल पाया, क्योंकि उनके पास वो एक्सेस पॉइंट ही नहीं था. द प्लेसेस दैट दे यूज्ड टू गो एंड कंडक्ट सर्वेज वर टी शॉप्स, वर बस स्टेशंस, वो वेरी मैस्कुलिन स्पेसेस जहां महिलाएं थी ही नहीं. तो 50% आबादी जो वोट करने जा रही है उसकी आवाज ही जब नहीं आ रही है, तुम समझेंगे क्या कि डेमोग्राफी क्या चाह रही है ना. तो ये छोटा सा चेंज मैंने किया. इसके लिए बहुत रेजिस्टेंस, ये बहुत आसान है कहना कि मैंने आई रिक्रूटेड वुमेन ऑन ग्राउंड. इट वाज वेरी डिफिकल्ट टू कन्विंस पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज दैट वुमेन volunteers will go on ground to do surveys. I'm telling you, it was a huge
That was your own achievement.
And I take huge pride in that achievement, because I don't think any survey agency in the country has done that.
Thank you, ma'am.
This is the last question which we are taking.
Good greetings to you, ma'am. Jagdish here. Ma'am, as you address that men should too have the supremacy on the matter like serving the snacks, but ma'am, sometimes we men coordinate with the women's, but social people, including women, say that ये तो लड़कों का काम है, sometimes like that. And even uh, lest we see the cases like men helps a woman, so the woman make that excuse that he wants to come closer or any other excuse. So ma'am, if we men are coordinating, we are not getting the respect and we are getting the allegations that we are coming closer to the women. So ma'am, what are your ideas on that?
Ma'am, this is really a valid question.
No, no, it is not just a valid question. I'm just thinking कि ये rejoinder मैं देना भूल गई कि मैंने जो इतनी बात की ना, तो इसमें ऐसा नहीं लगना चाहिए that women have not been culprits of pushing gender discrimination. Women as a community and as you know across generations, we ourselves have been responsible for this entrenched sociological term में कहें तो patriarchy in more than one ways. तो I agree with you on that कि वो है जो अंतिम बात जो आपने कही कि you know when we start allegations लग जाते हैं that the boy is trying to come close to women, ये थोड़ा सा मुझे अटपटा लग रहा है सुन करके. लेकिन जो आपका मूल सवाल है कि कैसे एड्रेस किया जाए इस इशू को, मुझे लगता है somebody there asked about the whole struggle starting from home, right? तो आई थिंक जो जेंडर बायसेस पुश होते हैं घर से, शायद शुरुआत वहीं से करनी होगी. सी इन आवर ओन फैमिलीज, एट वेरी एजुकेटेड पीपल एट टॉप नॉच पोजिशंस अर्निंग रियली गुड सैलरीज, वहां पर भी आप देखेंगे इवन टुडे व्हेन अ यू नो चाइल्ड इज बॉर्न, डिपेंडिंग ऑन द जेंडर ऑफ द चाइल्ड, रूम के कलर का सिलेक्शन हो जाता है कि ब्लू होगा या पिंक होगा. बहुत सटल चीजें हैं ये, बट आप जो स्टीरियोटाइप बना रहे हैं शुरू से ही, ये यही नींव पड़ती है, यहीं से चीजों की नींव पड़ती है. सो आई एग्री विथ यू, आई टोटली एग्री विथ यू. फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल मेन शुड नॉर्मलाइज, और जैसे महिलाओं के लिए मैं कहती हूँ ना कि महिलाओं को सबसे पहले अपनी शक्ति पहचानना, अपने आप को स्ट्रॉन्ग करना, मुझे लगता है मेन, इट इक्वली होल्ड्स ट्रू फॉर मेन एज वेल. Men should start normalizing crying, for example. It is okay to feel vulnerable at times. It is fine to feel overwhelmed. It is okay to break down in a group full of men or women. It is absolutely fine. Nobody is infallible. तो ये छोटी छोटी चीजें हैं, मुझे लगता है जो अपने ग्रुप से ही शुरू करना होगा.
Thank you. I would now invite Dr. Dharmesh Shah, Registrar GLS University, to share his views.
Very good morning to all of you. I would like to start my address with the inequality on a stage. Not on a stage, but rightly told by her about the color of the man. The child is not born, and color of the room is decided. You can see, not decided by me and Sefali ma'am, but she wear a blue and I wear a pink. Very I found you all are the very fortunate in this generation. I can say you are very fortunate where you have this kind of discourse is going to be arranged by the university. I just referred yesterday one of the article, and I found in a Kashmir university started a gender equality forum, and so difficulties they faced for a gender equality forum to establish in Kashmir university. And GLS University and Gujarat Law Society is working for the women empowerment cells, the women development cell from so many years. So it is I found we all are fortunate to be in a GLS, to be in Ahmedabad, to be in a developed city of Gujarat, to talk about this, to address this kind of discourse, to attend this, to arrange this kind of national symposium. So I found we are lucky enough in that way. If I'm talking about me in a particular, in my personal life, I grown with my 4 elder sisters. I am the youngest one. So you found in that way, okay, you are the lucky one in that case, but not the case. Uh, the 4 own real sisters and 1 younger brother. Just imagine about in a 7 family members, 5 were women, and 2 are male. So I just want to say in that way, my mother, I found in that way, my mother is always talking about not gender equality or equity. That time these terms were not there, but she always talk about it. Whenever the guest will come, Dharmesh will go and first serve. And that today also, when I'm getting married in 2003, and I used to do that from the childhood. So I did after marriage also. My wife was surprised and shocked कि how the man can go and serve to the guest, and that the habit. Today also, whenever you want anyone want to come at my place, it's most welcome. I can very well serve you. So what ma'am talk about it, serving tea or coffee or snacks to your own guest. That's the thing is very important. What she rightly point out, who is the host? That the most important thing. It's not the concern about you are a host is a male or female or any other gender, but the concern is who is the host of the guest. That rightly told by her. So I just want to connect this all what she talk about it. I when our Padma Vibhushan Lata Mangeshkar was died. That time I heard about I read about her story, and she wrote so many things about her struggle, and I found in that way her first song what was recorded never come in a market. Why so? Because she wrote in her address also, okay, because of the female singers at that times are not at all accepted by the film industry. And you can see today one girl on a harmonium that she played harmoniums, and you just find out the musical instruments also define कि harmoniums normally played by the males, tabla or dholak played by the male only. So what rightly told by ma'am, slightly some minor changes. We don't want to do a major changes in our life, but we can do some minor changes. Maybe harmonium can play by the girls, tabla or dholak can play by the girls. The small changes we can do in our life, it may happen that the what we are talking about today, we are talking about not women empowerment, but we are talking about women development, or we are talking about women leadership development. That maybe we can contribute to that particular things if we can make a small changes in our life. I just want to say about it further. In that case, in example of that, I read being a management graduate, I always read about some of the top notch entrepreneurs in a country, and I'm sure you heard the name of that Miss Kiran Mazmudar. And we just read that on Kiran Mazmudar, the MD of the Biocon. You just read her story, and maybe you can get inspired from that. Okay, so many works decided it is not for the females, and she in her young journey she decided to go become a to develop to become a master brewer, and she developed herself in that profession. And then just imagine from the and that opportunity she was never ever get in India, and she was get the opportunity in the UK and train herself as a master brewer, and ultimately she is a today we can say is a managing director of Biocon. You can see that. If we can say about it, yesterday only our deputy chairman of Rajya Sabha, Mr. Harivansh, speaks in G20 parliamentary speakers meeting in Jakarta. What he talk about it? He talk about it in India. What are the developments we did? And in that particular, he talk about social inclusion, gender equality, and women empowerment. And what are the different schemes introduced by our government today for the females, for the women empowerment? Rightly told by ma'am, the Ujjwala Yojana. So many Yojanas are there for women. Rightly talk about that girl about asking question about transgender. When we're talking about gender equality, we are not talking about our discourse is limited to the man and women, but we never ever talk about the transgender. and you can just go through that. When you ask the question, I just Google out, and I found in that the Gujarat government in 2019 started a transgender welfare board, and the first state in a country started a transgender welfare board. Maybe we as a youth, maybe as a university, maybe as a university management side, maybe we all come together and go with this kind of transgender welfare board, maybe participating in that board. Maybe we can start some NGO kind of thing, or maybe many NGOs are there for the transgender. Maybe we can work with them. Then we can uplift that gender in our regular genders, we can say. To talk about it or to ask a question about it, that's an easy task. But to go and actually do the work with them, it's a different story altogether. I always suggest, and I found in a GLS University we have culture, ma'am. Just to share you about it. GLS adopted a village called the Bakrol in Ahmedabad, near city of Ahmedabad, and over Bakrol village, the concept was there. The female child, the students, they have a school up to 9th standard only. For 10, 11, and 12th standard, they have to go to the near village. They have to walk around 7-8 kilometers, and then they have to go to near village. But GLS adopted that village and started a school over there for a 10, 11, 12th standard. Constructed a public toilets over there, and actually, what you're talking about, to work on a ground level, that GLS always have believed to do that. And with our student support, we can definitely go with this kind of, maybe we can start a gender clinic, and we can try to uplift the transgenders also. That we can do. Rightly told by, when you're talking about GLS, I can say about it, we are, like, I particularly in a minority. We can say like that, we have 80% staffs are more than females. And rightly told by that, when you're talking about a female staff more, the empathy is more. That is very true. We can say on the base of that. We can say that's why we always believe GLS is a parivar. It's a family. Because not females are more, that's why, but females are there. The emotions, the empathy, the what you can say, love, affections are definitely going to be more. And that we always feel in GLS day in day out. We are feeling that, and our students can vouch for that also. When they are going for any of the faculty members or any of the non-teaching staff members, maybe the female or male members, but they feel they are coming in a families. They never feel like that they are putting one family aside and they're coming to second family. That always that feeling we imbibe in our students, and that's possible. Rightly, I can connect that. What you talk about it, we connect with that. When the more females are there, the empathy and love affections are going to be more in a student side, and that we practice from the so many years. Finally, I just congratulate the Women Development Cell and Faculty of Business Administrations to arrange this kind of discourse in general. To special thanks to Shefali ma'am to arrange this kind of discourse and to discuss about these issues. It's not the end of this symposium, but to work on it, to implement in our life. Maybe a small changes we can do, but the small changes definitely make a big movement or making a big changes in the entire country. That is my last words. Thank you so much. Thank you for inviting to me here. And never ever I gave a speech on gender equality and equity. But first time, it's always a difficult task being a finance professor, talking about the time value of money and capital budgeting, and talking about today the gender equality and equity. It's a difficult task, but I hope I did. But I did it. Thank you so much.
To bring the change, be the change. Thank you so much, sir. Now, I would invite Professor Dipali Atre to propose vote of thanks.
A very good morning to all. One could not have asked for a more invigorating inaugural session at this national level symposium on gender equity and equality. Shubhrashtha ma'am, you spoke on the challenges women face in the corporate world, and particularly in the field of politics. You talked about the pay gap between genders. I was just doing some research and I came across figures of women at CEO positions globally, and women at board of director positions. The figures are shocking, horrifying, abysmal, saddening, anxiety causing. You pick up the adjective. Um, on behalf of GLS University's Faculty of Business Administration and the Women's Development Cell, I, Dipali Atre, thank you, ma'am, for promptly accepting our invitation and coming here. Your words have given the young members of the audience a lot to mull over. Very hard-hitting words, and I'm sure when they go back, they'll have a lot to think over. Thank you very much, ma'am. We at the Faculty of Business Administration are forever grateful to our president, Dr. Sudhir Bhai Nanavati, for always encouraging us to push our boundaries. He would have been here with us had he not been feeling a bit under the weather, which seems to be a virus going around in Ahmedabad. We are thankful to our executive director, Dr. Chandni Kapadia, for being that strong voice you hinted at earlier at that table. Ably representing our top management is Dr. Dharmesh Shah, Registrar, GLS University. Thank you, sir, for being here with us today and addressing us on this non-traditional for you topic, but great job. And I'm sure our young audience members, particularly the males, can draw inspiration from you and start making those small, small changes at their own homes. Thank you to the heads of the various institutes and faculty members who have joined us this morning on our national level symposium. Thank you to all the registered participants from various colleges of Ahmedabad, student members who are here in their capacity as participants. Thank you very much for being here with us and contributing to this great inaugural session. This brings us to the end of our formal inauguration session. I now invite,
Let me clarify one thing. As far as pay structure is concerned in GLS University, there is no discrimination. I think Sudhir sir is giving more to female members than male members. So we are fortunate enough to be a part of GLS University. And on behalf of all my faculty members, all GLS University staff, I really thank Sudhir sir and Chandni ma'am for allowing us and paying more than male staff. Sorry, Dharmesh sir, but I have to say that. Thank you.
Yeah, so that brings us to the end of the formal inaugural session. I request the students to remain seated before I invite Dr. Vinita to take forward the proceedings. Thank you.